The house was quiet, but the bedroom, it breathed danger. You lay curled at the farthest edge of the mattress, barely clinging to your slice of safety. The air was cold but dense, thick with tension, like a storm waiting to be named. The heavy silence between you and him wasn't empty. It was alive. It growled in the dark. It pressed against your skin. Your fingers clutched the bedsheet, curled like a child's. Sleep had abandoned you hours ago. Every rise and fall of his breath beside you felt like a countdown to something breaking, a crash, a snap, a scream. Even in slumber, Jungkook's presence dominated the room. His body was motionless, rigid. The man didn't sleep like a human. He slept like a lion, still, but never soft. Your body knew not to disturb him, knew not to breathe too loud. He wasn't the kind of man who needed raised voices to control. He could command with silence. He had mastered that art. Why did he marry me? The thought rose up like a sore. Why am I here? You stared at the ceiling, blinking back the sting in your eyes. Marriage was supposed to be warmth, partnership, shelter. But here, in this beautiful house, in this expensive bed, you had never felt more unwelcome, more alone. Then it happened. A subtle shift in the mattress, a drag of breath from behind. You stiffened, his arm moved, your eyes widened. In a single movement, his hand reached around you, solid and unrelenting, and pulled you roughly into his chest. The breath punched out of your lungs. You froze. What is he doing? Had you moved in your sleep? Had you crossed some invisible line? Your spine locked. Your fingers trembled. Heart hammering. You lay completely still, afraid to breathe, afraid to speak. His chest was firm, warm, too warm. He smelled like expensive cologne and sleep. His breath hit your neck in slow exhales. You could feel his heart steady, unbothered against your back, but you felt like you were drowning. He didn't let go, didn't adjust. He just held you there tightly like it meant nothing, like you were a pillow or a possession. Not a wife, not a person. Your mind raced. Should I move? But what if he wakes up and gets angry? What if he thinks I was trying to touch him? Number, don't make him angry. Not again. You swallowed down the lump in your throat and lay still. Every nerve in your body screamed. He didn't squeeze tighter, but he didn't loosen either. It wasn't comfort. It was containment. You could feel the edge of his chin brushing the back of your head. Even asleep, his face was tense, his brow furrowed, his lips in a faint line. Like the anger never left. It just slept. And yet, something in his hold felt familiar. Not gentle, not safe, but human. It was the first time he had touched you in weeks. Not out of anger, not to push past you, just held. You hated that part of you noticed. Your eyes burned. You closed them tightly, willing the tears away. I don't want this, but I want something. I want him to see me, to speak, to stop hurting me with his absence. Why does silence feel worse than rage? You shifted your hand slowly, an inch, testing the waters. He didn't react, but his hand, resting against your waist, flexed, just barely. You flinched, froze again. Even asleep, he's dangerous. The thought chilled you deeper than the night air. Why does my heart feel like this? Is it fear? Or is it something else? You shut your eyes tightly and tried not to cry. The ceiling disappeared. The room blurred. You reached for something small, something brave, and tapped his arm softly. A whisper of movement. You're supposed to be my husband, but all I feel is danger in your touch. All I hear is thunder in your silence. You didn't sleep. Not that night. Not really. Just lay there, in the arms of a man who held you without love and dreamed of being seen. Morning light crept through the blinds like an unwelcome guest, thin, pale, hesitant. You had barely blinked all night, your mind lost in that fragile space between sleep and survival. You were still in his arms, The position hadn't changed. His body behind yours, his arm draped over your waist like a chain that hadn't been unlocked. His breath on your neck had grown warm and uneven, signs of waking. Panic bloomed in your chest. He's waking up. You had to move, had to slide away before he noticed how close you were, before he accused you of something you didn't do, of intentions you never had. Slowly, you began to shift, lifting your body by mere inches, moving like a thief in the night. But then, his arm jerked. Not in anger, just the lazy swing of someone half asleep. His elbow collided with your shoulder, and in that one clumsy moment, your fragile balance was lost. You slipped off the side of the bed. The fall wasn't loud, but the jolt was enough to knock your breath out. Your elbow hit the carpet, your knees bent awkwardly beneath you. You gasped, muffling the sound with your hand. Your skin stung, your heart hammered. You looked up quickly. He was awake now, propped on one elbow, eyes squinting, hair slightly tousled, his brows knit together not in rage but confusion. "What was that?" You whispered, eyes wide. "Sorry, I was just getting up." His eyes landed on you, still on the floor, your arm wrapped around your ribs. He blinked once. For a second, just a second, his expression softened. Something flickered. His gaze traveled to your elbow, then back to your face. He didn't shout. He didn't insult. But he didn't help you up either. He just laid back down, turning away. You sat there for a few seconds longer, stunned by the absence of anger. Stunned that indifference could feel just as sharp as cruelty. You rose quietly, your body aching in silence. You moved to the bathroom, shutting the door softly behind you. Inside, the mirror stared back at you. You looked like a ghost of yourself, pale, messy hair, eyes that hadn't rested in weeks. Why do I feel grateful he didn't yell? Why is that now considered kindness? You turned on the tap, splashing water on your face, trying to wash away the feeling growing in your throat. A lump that wouldn't move. You remembered when you used to be excited to share a bed with someone, when marriage sounded like safety, like laughter at night, shared dreams, holding hands without flinching. But now? Now you just prayed not to be noticed, not to be in the way. You dried your face, pressed your back against the bathroom door, and listened, the sound of him moving, slowly, drawers opening. His phone buzzed once, a zipper closed, then the faint creak of the bed as he stood. You waited until the sound of his footsteps faded down the hall before you stepped out. Back in the bedroom, the sheets were a mess. His side was cold. His cologne still hung in the air, sharp, masculine, and distant. Your side? Still untouched, as if you'd never been in the bed at all. You moved silently through the room, collecting a wrinkled shirt, folding it just so. Anything to fill the silence. Anything to prove your usefulness. Because in this house, usefulness was the closest thing to love you were allowed. The living room clock ticked on. Time in this house felt like background noise, unnoticed unless it brought punishment. You had made his coffee and set it on the table like always. No sugar, just the way he liked it. You didn't sit near him. You didn't speak unless asked. You watched from the corner of your eye as he read the morning paper, his fingers turning pages with calm precision. Then it happened. He stood up sharply, brushing his shirt collar with annoyance. "Where's the damn button?" Your eyes darted to his cuff. Missing. Left sleeve open. A small thing. But in this house, small things exploded fast. He pulled the shirt down, irritated. "Seriously, I'm already late." You stepped forward before he could say more. "I can fix it." He looked at you briefly, eyes tired, jaw tight. But he said nothing, neither permission nor rejection. You understood that as a yes. You retrieved the needle and thread from the hallway drawer. Knees bending, You knelt on the carpet in front of him. His tall frame loomed above. He stood still, one arm slightly out, letting you work on the cuff. The silence was enormous. Your fingers shook as you threaded the needle. You couldn't keep them still. "Why are your hands trembling?" he asked suddenly. "I'm not," you lied, eyes down. The thread slid awkwardly through the hole. The needle poked your finger lightly, not enough to bleed, just enough to remind you what pain felt like in small, quiet forms. He let out a breath. Not angry, not loud, but not kind either. As you reached to hold the fabric steady, his hand moved without warning, resting gently at your waist. You froze. The touch was casual, unthinking, but your whole body went still. Your breath hitched. His fingers weren't harsh. They didn't grab, they simply rested. And somehow, that scared you more. "Don't look up," your mind whispered. "Don't make eye contact." Your hands worked faster. Needle in, pull through, fold, twist, stab again. "I just touched you," he said, voice low. "You look like I hit you." You didn't respond. He stared down at the top of your head. "Do I scare you that much?" You swallowed. "Yes," you wanted to say, but you didn't. You whispered, "I didn't mean to." "To what?" he asked. "You didn't know? To exist? To be fragile?" He let out a humorless breath. "You act like I'll break you just by touching you." You stayed quiet. Then he added, half smirking, "You're good at this. Maybe I should break another one tomorrow." You looked up at him sharply. He wasn't smiling exactly, but his expression wasn't cold either. There was a flicker of something, teasing or testing. You met his gaze for half a second too long. He noticed. Immediately, you looked away and returned to the button. Maybe he wasn't always cold. Maybe something under that anger was still human. But you didn't dare hope for that. You focused hard on the needle, one stitch at a time, in, pull through, in, pull through. The thread looped neatly now, your fingers steadying as the silence stretched between you and him. You felt the heat of his gaze on the top of your head. He hadn't moved his hand from your waist. He hadn't said another word. Maybe he was watching your hands. Maybe he was wondering how long you'd last. Then, just as you neared the final stitch, your finger slipped. The needle bit deep into your skin. You gasped quietly, sucking in a sharp breath. A small drop of blood bloomed on your fingertip like a flower. You immediately curled your hand behind your back, hiding it. Please, please don't let him see. But it was too late. "What happened?" "Nothing," you said too quickly. "I'm fine, just finishing now." You reached to continue, but he caught your wrist gently. "Let me see." "No, please, it's okay, don't be mad." "I'm not mad, let me see." His voice was firm, not cruel. It startled you more than anger would have. You hesitated. Then slowly you uncurled your fingers and showed him the prick. A single red dot marked your skin. He took your hand in his. Warmth. You froze. He reached into his pocket, pulling out a monogrammed handkerchief. You recognized it. Black silk with silver embroidery. The kind he never let anyone touch. And he used it to wrap your finger. Carefully. Slowly. You watched his hands, bewildered. They were steady. His brows were furrowed, not with anger, but with something else. Worry? Number. It couldn't be that. "You hurt yourself over a button?" he murmured, tying the cloth gently. "I just didn't want to make you wait," you said. He looked at you then. Really looked. His face went still. His jaw clenched, but not in the usual way. There was tension, yes, but also confusion, like he was trying to figure something out and didn't like what he found. "Why do you think I'll explode over everything?" he asked softly. You hesitated. Your throat tightened. "Because you always do." He didn't reply. Silence settled around you again, but this time it felt different. Heavy, with unspoken things. His hand still held yours. He could have pulled away, but he didn't. The kitchen was quiet except for the low hum of the refrigerator. You stood barefoot on the cold tiles, staring into a pot that was already too far gone. The rice had burned. A thick smell began to fill the space, smoky, acrid, bitter. You turned off the flame, heart sinking. The pot hissed as you moved it away from the heat. Smoke curled up, a lazy warning of what was coming. Not again. You tried to open the windows, to wave the smell away. You even sprinkled water into the pot in a desperate attempt to save it. But it was too late. His footsteps were coming, sharp, purposeful. Your hands shook as you reached for the ladle, pretending nothing was wrong. Jungkook entered the kitchen like a cold wind. He stopped at the threshold. The smell hit him instantly. "What the hell is that?" You turned quickly, hiding the pot behind your body. I think the rice burned a little." He stared at you, then at the pot, then back again. "A little?" he echoed, voice rising. "You can't even make fucking rice now?" Your mouth opened, but no words came out. The smoke filled your lungs. "I don't ask for much," he snapped. "A meal, just one decent meal, and even that's too much?" "I was tired," you whispered, eyes burning. "Oh, poor you. Always tired, always a mess. What are you even doing in this house if you can't get one simple thing right?" The words sliced sharper than shouting. You looked down. "I'll remake it. I'll fix it." "Forget it." He turned, voice cold. "I'll eat somewhere else." His footsteps faded down the hall. A door slammed. You stood still, spoon still in hand, and broke. Tears pooled, then spilled over. You set the spoon down slowly and leaned over the counter, trying to breathe, trying not to sob. The smoke stung your throat, but not as much as his words. Not as much as the shame that clung to your skin like oil. A few minutes later, another presence stepped into the kitchen, quieter, calmer. It was his mother. She didn't speak for a long time. She simply walked over, saw the burnt pot, the tear tracks on your cheeks, and sighed softly. "I told you," she said gently. "He's like his father." You said nothing. "A temper," she continued, placing a hand on your shoulder, "but not heartless." You turned to her, lip trembling. "He hates me." "He doesn't know what he feels," she answered. "He never did. But you have a good heart. Don't let it burn with the rice." You laughed bitterly through your tears. She handed you a lunchbox. "Take this to his office." Your breath caught. "What? Me?" "Yes, you are his wife. He needs to see your effort, not your fear." You stood for a long time after she left, the lunchbox in your hands. Why me? Why again? But somewhere inside, a stubborn hope flickered. Small, pathetic, maybe, but alive. You wiped your eyes, took a breath, and stepped out the door. The building stood tall, glass, steel, and shadow. You clutched the lunchbox like it held your courage inside. People in pressed suits passed you by without a second glance. Everything here moved with purpose, except you. Your feet hesitated at the entrance, but your hands didn't. You had told yourself this was about care, about making peace, about proving that even when he walked out, you could still walk in. Security didn't stop you. One of them recognized you, Jungkook's wife. A quiet nod. The elevator ride to the third floor felt too short. You stepped out and were greeted by silence. The hallway was empty, but voices murmured from behind the tall glass doors of the conference room. You held the lunchbox tighter. Maybe I should leave it on his desk. Maybe I shouldn't interrupt. But you were already walking. The meeting room door was slightly ajar. Your heartbeat pounded in your ears as you pushed it open and stepped inside. He was seated at the head of the table, sleek black suit, posture sharp, tone firm. Beside him were clients, men in tailored coats, papers spread on polished wood, and then there was you. You forgot your lunch," you said, barely louder then a whisper. Every head turned. The room froze. You felt the air tighten, like the oxygen had been vacuumed out. Jungkook stood slowly, his jaw clenched, but he said nothing. Not to them, not to you. He walked over, grabbed your arm, not roughly, but firmly, and led you out, shutting the door behind him. You stood in the hallway. He looked at you with eyes that didn't know whether to scold or stay silent. I thought maybe you hadn't eaten, you whispered. I just wanted to give you lunch. You thought it was a good idea to walk into a meeting and call me that in front of my clients? Your voice was small. I didn't mean to embarrass you. You did. You looked down. I'll go, you said. I'm sorry. You held out the lunchbox. He took it. You bowed slightly and turned to leave. Next time, he said behind you, knock first. And don't ever use that word in front of others. You paused, but didn't look back. You just walked away, hands empty, heart heavier than it had been when you arrived. Back inside the room, Jungkook sat back down. He didn't speak for a moment, then picked up the box. Inside, everything was still warm, homemade, tidy. A folded napkin sat on top. He opened it slowly. To my husband, I'm sorry for earlier. I hope you like this lunch. I'll try to be better. Please take care of yourself. Your wifey. The word he scolded you for glared back at him from the ink. Wifey. A silly word, a small word. But now it felt loud. Too loud. He sat alone in his office. The meeting had resumed and ended. Voices had come and gone, papers signed, hands shaken. But Jungkook barely remembered any of it. The lunchbox sat untouched beside his laptop, and the note, that small handwritten thing with the heart at the end, rested on top of it like a wound he couldn't ignore. He stared at it now. It was innocent, clumsy, sweet, painfully sincere. His thumb brushed the curve of the Y in wifey, the little loop inked with care. For the first time in a long while, he realized you never shouted at him, never threw things, never even asked for much. You just tried, quietly, every day. And he barely looked at you. He pushed. He controlled. He stayed silent when he should have spoken, cold when he should have comforted, harsh when all you ever offered was kindness. His chest tightened, not with rage, but something that felt dangerously close to guilt. He opened the lunchbox slowly. Steam rose from inside. The rice was molded in the shape of a heart. 2 side dishes tucked neatly in the corners. His favorite sauce in a tiny sealed container. The spoon was wrapped in a napkin, printed with small pink flowers. Another note was tucked beneath it, shorter this time. I know you don't like sweet things, but I added a little honey to the chicken. Just today. I hope that's okay. It wasn't the food that hit him. It was the fact that you remembered everything he said. Every habit, every like and dislike, even when he pretended you weren't there. He took a bite, hesitant at first, then another. The food was warm, better than anything a restaurant could give him. Because this wasn't just food, it was time. It was effort. It was love, from someone who had no reason left to keep giving it. He finished every bite, then folded the napkin, slowly, and set the note back inside. He sat still, alone with the silence he had built for himself. And suddenly, for the first time in a long while, it didn't feel like strength. It felt like failure. Evening had settled in by the time you returned home. You hadn't spoken much since you came back from the office. You hadn't expected gratitude. You hadn't even expected him to eat it. You just did what felt right. Now you sat on the bedroom floor, folding clothes into neat stacks. Your hands moved carefully, as if the way you smoothed a collar or aligned a sleeve might somehow fix something else. Something far more broken. The room was quiet, not cold, not angry, just waiting. The closet door creaked faintly behind you. You didn't turn. You recognized his footsteps. Jungkook moved slowly this time. Not with the usual heavy pace that carried command, but something softer, hesitant. He stopped a few feet behind you. You waited, your hands still folded fabric, your breath shallow. Then, he moved. 1 step, 2. You felt him before he touched you. The air shifted. Then his arms slid around you from behind, wrapping gently over your shoulders. He didn't hold you tightly. It wasn't a cage. It was almost comforting. Your body stiffened. You stopped folding. You stopped breathing. "It's me," he said, voice low, lower than you'd ever heard it. Not angry, not harsh, just quiet. You slowly turned your head. Not fully, just enough to see his chin near your shoulder. His eyes avoided yours. His cheek rested lightly against your temple. "I was about to start dinner," you whispered, unsure of what to do. "Don't," he replied softly. "Not yet." You didn't move. His warmth wrapped around your back. His hands didn't squeeze. They simply held. Like maybe, just maybe, he was trying not to lose you. "You were scared this morning," he murmured. "You said nothing. And last night, still silent. I don't want you to be scared of me." You almost laughed, almost cried. You didn't know which one would come out first. "You're always angry," you finally whispered. "Even when you don't say anything." He pulled back slightly, not away, just enough to rest his chin on your shoulder again. "I didn't eat lunch," he said. You blinked. "I mean, not before you came." You swallowed hard. "I finished it," he added. "All of it." Your lips parted. It was good. A pause. "I didn't know how to say that to you." You turned your head a little more, still not facing him directly. "Not yet." "I'm not trying to make you walk on glass," he said. "I know it feels that way, but I don't want it to." You didn't know what to say. His arm slowly slid across your chest, holding you a little closer now. "If I keep doing this wrong, tell me." You didn't speak, but you leaned back, just slightly, into his chest. It wasn't forgiveness, but it was something, a beginning. Night fell quietly. You stood in the kitchen, spooning warm curry into a small porcelain bowl. Your movements were precise, gentle, and careful. It wasn't about perfection. It was about offering something, anything, that he wouldn't reject. You didn't know what had changed, only that something had. He hadn't yelled all evening, hadn't walked past you like you were invisible, hadn't thrown his shirt or slammed a door, and now he was waiting, not at the table, but on the floor of the bedroom, legs folded loosely against the side of the bed, leaning back like someone who didn't want a throne, just presence. You walked in slowly, bowl in one hand, spoon in the other. He looked up when you entered, not like he was inspecting you, but like he was waiting for you. You knelt in front of him, quiet. He didn't say anything. Then, softly, "Sit with me." You hesitated, then obeyed. You settled cross-legged beside him, placing the bowl between you both. "I can feed myself," he said. You offered him the spoon anyway. "I know," you said. "But let me." He looked at you, really looked this time, like he was seeing your tired eyes, your trembling fingers, the quiet strength you'd never let crack in front of him. His voice softened. "You don't have to serve me." "I'm not," you whispered. "I'm trying to reach you." He didn't argue. You scooped a small spoonful, held it out gently. He leaned forward and took the bite without flinching. For the first time, you saw him close his eyes, not in annoyance, but in quiet acceptance. "This is good," he murmured. You nodded. You didn't trust yourself to speak. Another spoonful, then another. Your hands were steady now, each motion slow and gentle. But your eyes stung. You blinked fast. One tear slipped down your cheek. He saw. "Hey!" He reached out suddenly, his hand cupping your jaw gently. "Don't cry." "I'm sorry," you said, voice cracking. "I don't know why I can't stop." "You've done nothing wrong." His hand was warm, firm, not controlling, comforting. "I keep thinking if I try harder, you'll stop hating me." "I never hated you. He said, you pushed me away. I was angry at everything, not you, and I didn't know how to be what you needed. You lowered your gaze. He gently took the spoon from your hand and placed it aside. Then, slowly, he pulled you into his lap, wrapping both arms around you, carefully, deliberately, like you might shatter. You've been feeding me while starving yourself. His voice cracked on the edge of guilt. You've shown up every day, and I just watched you break. You trembled in his hold. I didn't want to make you afraid, he whispered, forehead resting against yours. But I did. You didn't respond, not in words, but your body leaned into his, softly, slowly. Like forgiveness wasn't given, but maybe earned in pieces. The next morning, you didn't wake up to silence. You woke up to movement, the soft rustle of a blanket being pulled over your shoulder, the faint scent of him, cedarwood and warm skin, his chest behind you, steady with sleep. But this time, it wasn't suffocating. His arm rested lightly across your waist. Not possessive, not forceful, just present. You opened your eyes slowly, blinking in the soft morning light. For the first time in weeks, the room didn't feel like a cage. It felt like a room again. You lay there, still and unsure, until you felt him stir behind you. His arm tightened, just slightly. Then came his voice, rough with sleep, but low and real. Stay a little longer. You nodded. He pressed his forehead to the back of your shoulder. No words, just closeness. When you finally rose to make breakfast, he followed you to the kitchen. Not demanding, not angry, just followed. You moved quietly, flipping eggs in the pan, watching the toast rise in the toaster. He stood behind you, leaning against the counter, arms folded. You don't have to rush this, he said softly. You looked over your shoulder. Rush what? Being okay. Your hand paused mid-stir. You weren't okay. But maybe now, you were allowed to admit that. He stepped closer. Don't pretend anymore, he said. If I hurt you, tell me. If I scare you, stop me. If I fail you, leave. Your eyes filled again. But I don't want to leave, you whispered. I just wanted you. His eyes fell shut for a second, like those words hurt more than anything else. You had me. You just had the worst of me. You turned back to the stove. I still fed you, you said, softly. Even then. I know. You plated his food and turned to him. But now, you said, I want to feed someone who's human, not a shadow. He nodded. No pride, no defense, just truth. Later that evening, after dinner, you sat in bed, folding laundry again. The habit stayed. But this time your movements were slower, softer. He entered the room and said nothing. Then he knelt in front of you, quietly picking up a shirt to fold. You looked at him, startled. He glanced up. You always do everything alone. I thought I'd try. You watched as his fingers fumbled the corners, folding it messily. It made you smile, just a little. You're terrible at this, you murmured. He chuckled softly. Yeah, but I want to be terrible beside you. That night, you lay in bed again. Only this time, your body wasn't frozen. Your breath came easy. His arm found you in the dark, and you didn't flinch. He held you, lightly, warmly, and for the first time, you didn't feel like something fragile trapped in a storm. You felt like something held. You weren't healed, but you weren't breaking anymore.